your face! I win! Nanny, nanny, boo-boo, etc., etc. I'm so dreadfully embarrassed.
What's with him all of a sudden?
He's been this way for a while.
A grim turn of events has brought out my serious side, and I'm ashamed. You children are supposed to think of me as comic relief. I'm a free-spirited, impish type who cleverly dodges direct questions. That's my shtick. I was forced to break character.
You dissecting your character type is what's humiliating.
Nothing comes from nothing, boys and girls. If you want answers, work for them. Show me what you've learned.
You know, a child of the 60s, growing up through 70s to 90s to present day, I've seen a lot. And I'll tell you, I could say that I've seen the rise of entertainment as far as the rise of the VHS and videotape, Betamax eras, the video store, the rise of anime in the West, as far as that, the coming of the CD and the DVD, and of course the internet, which was the biggest thing that came for us on there in my youth. You had a lot of things that had happened, and the one major thing that it always occurs every time. There are tragedies in the world. Things happen. Things happen to families. It's a shame. People die. Whether it's something that was a criminal element, or if it was suicide, or many other things. And you have to say to yourself that this is going to go on. No matter what you do in life, you could sit there and chastise things that are just for example, guns. People are going to blame guns for things. They're going to blame violent video games. They're going to blame music, TV, movies, many things like that. And that was happening in my youth, from the 80s into the 90s. And the funny part is, it's coming back over again. And just now, last week, we had a manga that was supposedly being banned in 2 states, Florida and Wisconsin, might be in a couple other places. But this is harking back to what I grew up on, and all the insanity. And this went to, government to try to resolve these situations, and they should not have gotten involved back then, and they should not get involved today. Before we get into this, I want to thank you for those who have subscribed, clicked on this video, like, share, hit that notification bell, all that groovy stuff on there. We really do appreciate that. Basically you are here to watch these videos, and it's very important. Most of all, share these videos out. This type of topic, especially this particular manga, other than YouTubers, the mainstream media hasn't picked up on this. You have a couple of small little media rags on the internet, but not really too much on the mainstream media. I mean, even the local media in Wisconsin and in Florida have not really gone into this. And I think it is very important that we point this out for the reason, and I keep saying this, anytime that someone sees something and they say, oh, it's evil, we need to get rid of it. So did you read it? I heard some things about it. What did you hear about it? Well, it has guns in it, and they want to kill their teacher, and it's all evil and stuff like that. I said, did you actually read the actual story? They said, no, I just got the synopsis. I said, well, go back and read the story. And this is what we're talking about today. If you've not heard of the manga, a really popular manga and anime, Assassination Classroom, it's on the ban list. It's being put on the ban list for the reason that there's one person, and believe it or not, it's one person who has fueled the fire on people. Says, you know what your kids are reading? Do you know what is in their schools? They got a book that basically kids wanting to kill their teacher. You know what I have to say about that? It's like,
Hold up. Wait a minute. Something ain't right.
if you don't sit down there and read what's in there, stay in your fucking lane and mind your business. Because if you're talking through your ass, basically you're harming a novel, a manga that is very well written and very well, it's a really good. Kids should be reading it. Middle school and high school should be reading this manga. I'll tell you why. Let's go into the story a little bit. The story itself, if you have not realized it, and those of you who have not seen this, go out and see it. Hulu has it on their streaming site on there, both dub and in Japanese. And then, of course, you can go out and get the manga. Go to your local bookstore, grab them. I mean, the main story is about this creature. You can call him an alien, maybe he's earthbound situation, because I don't want to give too much away. He destroys most of the moon in one fellow swoop. It leaves a quarter moon left. After that, he makes a threat to the Earth and says, I'm going to destroy you by this time period. But I will give you the chance to stop me by two things. One, I will give you the ability to destroy me. I will teach you to build these weapons that will destroy me. The second part of the deal is that I want to teach children. I want to teach a schoolroom of children. I'm pretty good at it, and I would like to teach kids, give kids an education. Now, you may ask yourself, well, what kind of weapons are these? Well, they're mostly airsoft guns. Airsoft guns. And they shoot out a pellet. And the only person that could be harmed by that pellet is this alien creature. The same thing with the knives. Same thing with everything else that they've given to these kids. And the thing about it is, the kids that brought on here are brought by the government, and the government is paying for this. And they said the one that destroys this alien from stopping him from destroying the Earth will get like a heft, I think something like 10 million or some ridiculous amount of money. And the thing is that the teacher knows it's going to happen, and he encourages it. But understand this: he's teaching class. He's teaching students, and the thing that makes it more important is that there are some scenes where they focus on certain characters, certain teens. The kids that are in this particular class are sort of the outcasts, the ones that are always in trouble, or basically they just not they don't conform well with the rest of the school. They're just basically the ones that filter through the cracks of the education system. And they all have different quirks and stuff like that. And there are times that they focus on the teacher talking to the child, or the teen, you could say teen, about life. And, like there's one in the early episodes where the kid is trying to, he couldn't really get into baseball because his pitches weren't that great. And the teacher goes, well, there's a reason why you're trying to mimic your favorite ball player. And you keep using his stance and all that. Don't use his stance. Use your own. And he encourages him, to just be himself. And this is throughout this manga. You get a lot more of this. Now, I don't want to go any further because he's going to give away a lot more. But this is what you're expecting on this manga. A teacher that, respects his students, tries to help them the way a teacher's supposed to do. Now, the the comedic part of it is that they're constantly shooting at him with these BBs, but the alien creature can move at Mach 20. I mean, there's some scenes where he goes off to lunch, say he goes off to New York or to China to get some food, comes back and he has a missile in his side. He says, hey, they tried shooting me again. And the government's constantly, have you tried? You gotten close, And this is not something where someone has gotten mad at somebody that basically, that they let the world, on there, and what you've seen on news, on the news today on that. Yes, these kids are outcasts, but they're being taught properly, the way they're supposed to be taught when you have situations like this. Sort of kind of puts into the thought processes on there. And see, the thing is that this is the thing that happens time after time after time when it comes to this. Like I said, this harks back a bit. And, people will say, I mean, for example, music. They'll say like, oh, it's demonic. Oh, if you play it backwards, it has these messages that basically will, cause my kid to be suicidal or very violent. Kind of similar to the 1990 case against Judas Priest. If you're not familiar with that, Judas Priest was basically being sued and CBS for basically the lyrics in music. At the time, it was one thing that was ahead of its time that you would see a lawsuit of this nature, considering we have freedom of speech here. We have the Miller's test and stuff like that. But don't take it from me. Take it from this little doodah from back in 1990.
The suit claimed that subliminal messages in the Stained Class album and on the song Better By You, Better Than Me drove Raymond Belknap and James Vance to shoot themselves with a sawed-off shotgun in a Nevada playground in December of 1985. Belknap died instantly. Vance lived 3 years before succumbing to complications from the self-inflicted wounds. While Halford admitted that he had once recorded a backward message as an artistic experiment, the band strongly denied the existence of subliminal messages on the album.
The lyrics have never been bad, and there are no subliminal messages. There never have been.
And these cases that are brought against people such as ourselves have a vast background of reasons as to why these things happen, and they're nearly all related to the family environment. Nothing at all to do with the music.
That's not the only thing. They went after television. They went after video games. I mean, here's a little bit of...
Every day, the news brings more and more images of random violence, torture, and sexual aggression right into our living rooms. Violence and violent images permeate more and more aspects of our lives. And I think it's time to draw the line. I know that one place parents want us to draw the line is with violence in video games. The fact is that a new generation of video games crosses that line, containing the most horrible depictions of graphic violence and sex, including particularly violence against women. Like the Grinch who stole Christmas, these violent video games threaten to rob this particular holiday season of a spirit of goodwill. Instead of enriching a child's mind, these games teach a child to enjoy inflicting torture.
They just ran the gambit to the situation, tried to blame everything, every issue of the day, and not look to the perspective that maybe there's a mental problem with the person. Maybe he's very depressed to the situation. Or maybe that he, needs a little bit more parental care in his life. I mean, you look at the Judas Priest situation. I mean, these were two young men that basically were sitting around, drinking, smoking, listening to music. Then they went out and shot themselves. One died immediately. The other one took 3 years to die. He succumbed to his wounds 3 years later. But all the parents could blame was the music. Didn't blame the stuff that they were smoking. Didn't blame the what they were drinking. didn't go. I didn't even think they went after the freaking shotgun manufacturer. They went right after the music because they thought that they heard something in there. But guess what? The lead singer for Judas Priest proved them wrong in a courtroom. Is that sometimes you could hear something that you think it's there, but it's not. It's what gets put into your mind. On the other hand, is you have situations where, video games, and this was back then, video games were still, the quality then was still, being developed. It's not like what it is today, but, here's another clip from a congressional hearing on C-SPAN.
Clip before from Night Trap with the woman being attacked. And I said earlier that I thought that violence was gratuitous and offensive and ought not to be available to people in our society. Mr. Lincoln, just here a few moments ago, as vice president of the other leading company in this field, Nintendo, said, and I quote, "This game simply has no place in our society." Why don't you agree? Why doesn't Sega just pull Night Trap off the market?
I think, Senator, with all due respect, the point I tried to make in my oral arguments and testimony was that this industry, as part of the interactive media industry, has grown tremendously. The children represent only a portion of the audience that we try to serve with our interactive software. Night Trap was developed specifically for an adult audience. Sega took a leadership position in establishing an independent rating council and appropriately labeled Night Trap MA-17 not appropriate for children. And we believe, just as Congress has treated the motion picture industry, that we as an industry should have an opportunity to regulate ourselves.
Screaming out the same rhetoric as they did in the past. This is why I tell you, when you look at who you're voting for, note what they've done in the past as far as how long have they been in Congress? How long have they been, have they been, how long have they been the mayor, the governor? Have they done right for their constituents? Look at how many politicians are here today that were back in the 1990s in these congressional hearings. Think about that for a minute. There's a lot of them left. A lot of them. We need to change the situations to the point where there are books that should not be in the classroom, and I'm all for that. And there's a reason for that. If you have grammar school and middle school, and you have books in there that are discussing sex or drugs or something that only should be discussed from high school and above, you need to take that book out. It doesn't belong there. If you have oral, it's teaching you sex, oral sex. It doesn't belong there. If it's talking about, if your life is confused, maybe you are, a male or a female. The transgender situations on that should not be at that age group. I've always said, if you want to dress like a woman, if you're a man, you want to dress like a woman, you're an adult, that's your freaking business. That's the things you got to deal with in life. But I'm going to tell you, go get some help. And I'm not talking about drag queens. Drag queens are entertainers. There are people who dress up. For many years, there are comedians who have dressed up as women. Even people like Robin Williams and Martin Lawrence. Those are comedic roles. And it's the same thing with a lot of these drag queens. They're doing a comedic role. But there are some out there that is doing damage to the drag queen community. And they have to be filtered out. Same thing with the trans community. There are those hurting the trans community, and they need to be filtered out as well. And it's hurting the gay community, both male and female. When you see that basically certain books are being banned for certain reasons, look at the reasons why first. And then say, hey, wait a minute. No, I'm not going to say that.
Hold up. Wait a minute. Something ain't right.
What is in this book that some people are deeming dangerous? We should read it and find out. Sit with our child. I put out there, for those of you who are in areas that Assassination Classroom has been, if they have been pulled yet or not, or they're questioning on there, take a moment and watch the anime with your child. If they're in middle school or if they're in high school. If they're younger than the middle school, no, I wouldn't recommend it. I mean, it is the creature is a bit fun, but wait a little bit. Wait till they're in middle school. But sit down with them. See what they're interested in. Because there is no really nudity in this. Someone said that, there's the fan service. It's not the fan service that you would normally see in, like Neon Genesis and a lot of others. It's not like High School DxD. It's like none of the others. Understand, there are different levels of anime and manga. From G-rated, like for kids, to average audiences, and to adult audiences. Those are those different levels. And we need to stop this, every 10 seconds you want to take that. And some of these people are trying to do it because they especially with Assassination Classroom, they're trying to ban anime. This has happened in Russia. They banned Death Note because people are committing suicide. So what in Death Note causes them to go commit suicide? Oh, because he was wearing a suit. What's that supposed to have to do with the anime? Because he was a fan of the anime, he had posters up and stuff like that. That's what caused them to jump out the window? People get into depression. And the thing about it is, we're hearing this now. We are hearing now that there is a mental issue going on here in the U.S.
I can tell you that the problem is escalating, and we've never seen so many people seeking treatment.
It's one of the biggest issues post-pandemic, the rate of Americans struggling to cope with an underlying mental health issue, then masking the issue with drugs, alcohol, pills, overeating, and other kinds of obsessive behaviors. Dawn Johnson is with the Indiana Center for Recovery in South Bend, Indiana.
So I work in an inpatient unit. We detox patients off of all substances of abuse, alcohol, benzos, opioids. And the numbers don't surprise me at all.
It has been coming across, the warnings have been out there, all the way toward Japan, that this has been happening. If you look at recently, the suicide rates are up in Japan and in Korea and even in the United States. And then there are other issues, like the people, going through shootings and stuff like that. There are, the other day, my wife is out and she's getting a cup of coffee. Some guy's out there yelling and says, "I'm going to destroy the earth. And, God told me to." Guy has a bit of an issue. There was one point back, I think 2.5 years ago. This was back when I got into the hospital and all my health issues were starting up. And when I was in the emergency room, there was this guy across the way. And the guy was like, you could tell he was flipped out insane. And the thing is that I guess he got injured or something like that. They healed him and they told him he had to go. And he didn't want to leave. I guess room and breakfast, lunch, and dinner, he ain't going to be there. Eventually they got him out. About a couple of weeks later, I'm sitting in the rehab center, which I got sent to, and I'm watching the news. And a news story came up that a man in the Staten Island ferry had gone over and did a, how can we put it? He did an Ozzy Osbourne. Yeah, he took the head off of a pigeon.
He ripped the pigeon and ripped his head off. With his hand.
Eddie David Paul, big time. What's up? Eddie David.
You can go to jail for that.
And the cops arrested him, and I'm looking at the news report, and I'm like, oh my God, that's the guy that was in the hospital. The guy just went bonkers. And this is the thing that's been happening. There are people that are depressed. There are people who have mental issues, and we need to help them. It doesn't help when you're banning stuff and blaming every issue on inanimate objects, inanimate books, music, video games. Yeah, they all use it, but it doesn't mean that was the catalyst. It might have been part of it, of many things piling up on themselves. But you got to remember, when people are depressed, they're looking at many things. They'll sit there, they'll start to drink, you're going to blame the alcohol for that? They start chain smoking, you're going to blame the cigarettes for that? No, you're not going to. People drive to their, dark nature because they allow it. And they need help. They need help. The same thing is like these people need help who wanting to ban all this stuff on there. Keep the sex out of the young kids' hands and stuff like that. The average book reader, there are plenty of great books out there, plenty of great manga out there that have great stories, and the kids should be reading this. Remember, there's a time when Goosebumps was real popular with kids. It got kids to read. We need that again. We need that circus again of those type of books where, every time they put out a book, it's like every kid wants it. Same thing with the Harry Potter books. How popular they were. Still is, actually. We need that on there. Not editing the books, not banning the books, There has to be a point where we have to sit down and say, this is what should be in the schools and this is what should not be in the schools. And that's it. Plain and simple. If one person, 2 persons, 10 people says, I don't like that book. Okay, you don't like that book. Don't let your kids rent it out. Don't let your, if you don't like it, plain and simple. There are other people that may enjoy that type of entertainment, which this is Assassination Classroom is a comedy, but also you could say it's a dramatic. So you can say it's a dramedy. It has a message to it. And the message is not to kill your teacher, but to know yourself, to basically feel better about yourself, make the sacrifices that you want in your life, that if you want to go forward, do it. Learn more about yourself. Don't let people put you down for your abilities or for your looks. So tell me in the comments below your thoughts about this. I want to hear about this. I mean, like I said, this is a la 1990s all over again. This is what we're going through. So please do comment. Don't forget to subscribe, and I hope I've earned your subscription today. Like this video, share it, because I know there's a lot of people that are not getting these videos. So please do share it. And another thing is hit that notification bell, so at least you'll know when our videos do hit. Like I said, we do try to be constant, so at least you know when the videos mostly will hitting at the same time. But there's occasions where we have to switch things around, and it happens. So the notification bell does help. And if you do want to help support this channel, there are ways to support it, which are listed in the description below. Merch site with t-shirts, and we also have a donation site via PayPal at the moment. So until next time, thank you for clicking on this video. We'll see you again on the next one. Bye-bye now.